We are a few weeks into Washington Nationals spring training, and there have been plenty of great performances. But of the great performances, who has been the most impressive? I've got three right after this.
You are Locked On Nationals, your daily Washington Nationals podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And thank you all for making Locked On Nationals your first listen every single day, as we are free and available wherever you get your podcast. And of course, I'm your host, Ryan Clary. You can catch me over on Twitter at RyanClary11 and as well as our show page at LO_Nationals. For all your latest Nationals news and notes, make sure to check us out over on Twitter. And of course, search up Locked On Nationals wherever you get your podcast, whether it's on Apple, Spotify, and of course, the video version of this said podcast you can check out over on YouTube. Just look up Locked On Nationals. Later on in today's show, we will be discussing the week ahead for your Washington Nationals. Get some previews in there, what we want to see, what we don't want to see. That'll be in the third segment. And it is a Monday. We're a few weeks into spring training now, so we are bringing back your Washington Nationals stock report. Who's been up and who has been down? That'll be your second segment in Monday's show. But as we get into it, let's talk about this. Who has been most impressive so far through spring training? I've got three young players for you. I was trying to stay away from some of the older guys, wanting to give you some young up-and-coming prospects. I've got three for you, and I'm going to give you a hint. You know them. We'll discuss that, but today's episode is brought to you by our good friends at FanDuel. And right now, new FanDuel customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So far in spring training, for the Washington Nationals, there have been three guys who, in my opinion, have really just kind of gone out ahead of the others. Like, if you are talking about the core pieces here, like C.J. Abrams, James Wood, Dylan Cruz, I'm not really talking about them on this first segment. What I want to get into here is who has impressed me the most. Like, these guys had something to prove coming into spring training, and they are taking every opportunity that they can and running with it and doing a very good job up to this point. So let's talk about that. And I will say this, two of these guys are former first-round picks. Number one, Brady House. Brady House continues an incredible spring training, and it started off a little bit slower. But after just a handful of games right now, he's got 18 at-bats under his belt. He's batting .389, a .476 OBP, a .444 slug, and a .920 OPS with 3 walks and a strikeout, and he's got 1 double. I will say this, though. While he has been really good defensively, I want to see more power out of Brady House. I want to see my power hitters hit with a lot of power. Now, with that said, he is a 21-year-old kid at this point. He is still a puppy in Major League Baseball. Brady House is going to come up this season. He's going to make an impact, barring injury, and he's going to be a very good player for this Washington Nationals team. And I think that this spring training is just kind of securing that thought in my mind. I have no doubt that Brady House is going to be a very good major leaguer. I have no doubt that he is going to make his debut at some point this summer in 2025, if not even sooner. This is a very good prospect still. And if you kind of remember this past year in 2024, there was a lot of ups and downs yet again for Brady House. He kind of made his way up to AAA last year, maybe a little bit premature for just being honest here. But with that in mind, he really didn't put up the numbers that a lot of people expected after coming off a crazy good 2023 season down where he jumped from Fredericksburg up to AA Harrisburg. And this past year, didn't make those jumps. So as of right now, with what he is doing, going up against big league talent, going up against some big prospects pitching-wise, Brady House has held his own. And I think that this kind of reassures Nationals fans out there that, yes, you do have the third baseman of your future. You do have someone that you can kind of rely on down in the farm system that you're like, I can't wait to see this guy. That's Brady House. Number 2, another former first-round pick, Robert Hassel III. We've talked a lot about him this spring training, and he has probably been the most impressive guy, or maybe the next guys actually might be the most impressive. But Robert Hassel III is up there. So far in 30 at-bats, he has a 400 batting average. He's has a 455 OBP, a 600 slug, a 1055 OPS. He's got 3 doubles. He's got a home run, 5 RBIs, 3 walks, 5 strikeouts, and 2 stolen bases. That is a loaded stat line for Robert. And again, going back to his last few years, if you remember when the Nationals first made that trade for when they traded away Juan Soto and Josh Bell and got back the massive haul, it was at that time where I thought Robert Hassel was going to be like the first one up into the bigs. And it's taken a little bit longer for him. But he is still 23 years old today. Think about that for a second. Let's say that he was drafted out of college. Let's say he went to Tennessee, which I believe is where he was committed to. He would probably be knocking on the door of Major League Baseball probably now. And if you're drafted by the Nationals rather than the Padres, your kind of development probably would have been slowed down a little bit. The Padres like to fly guys up through their system. The Nationals don't. They've never really done that outside of Juan Soto when they were really contending there. That is kind of the trajectory that I think Robert Hassel should be on now. And now that you kind of see that he is putting everything together against big league talent, doing everything that you wanted him to do, play really good defense out in the outfield, be really good at the plate, putting the ball in play, not striking out as much. Robert Hassel is checking all the boxes for what Nationals fans thought that he would be in 2022. So now that you start to see all these things be put together, his defense is on point. His offense is on point. The 2 things that matter most for Robert Hassel, and you're starting to see a very good ball player kind of take that next step in his development that we were all thinking that he could take. So if you go into this year, he's going to start in AAA. He's going to start in AAA and then work his way up into the bigs, I expect, at some point this year. But the key for Robert Hassel is this. He has to stay healthy. And if he can stay healthy, then you will see an impactful major league player because he is 100% healthy now and he's putting up these numbers. This is kind of the expectation for him. And it might be unfair, but this is where he lies today. And he is a very good player when he is healthy. And I think we'll all be able to see that in 2025. So one guy that was not necessarily on my radar as much going into spring training was the relief pitcher, Orlando Rebalta, the 12th round pick out of the JUCO ranks in 2019. My God, has this guy impressed. 7 1/3 innings pitched, 0 earned runs, 10 strikeouts, a 0.55 whip. You're going to ask me this, Ryan, how do you not know Orlando Rebalta? It's not that I don't know him. It's the fact that he was not on my radar as someone that I thought would be like competing for a big time job here. But the way that he has been pitching has been incredible, to say the least. And if you even look at some of his best stuff, I saw someone tweet at me the other day with this kind of saying, and I don't necessarily believe in it, but it was interesting. Someone said, well, he could be like the next Mountain for the Washington Nationals. And I'm like, whoa. He's not going to be Felix Bautista. I'm not putting him in that conversation yet. But for the numbers that he has been putting up in spring training, they have been worthy of being talked about. And going back to his last season, he had a 2.82 ERA in AA and in AAA. He got called up to the bigs, probably a little bit early for him, but he had a really good season down in the minors. And even the year before that, he was not bad also. Now, he was hurt and kind of was fluctuating back and forth from low A and rookie ball and all the different levels there. He played at 5 different levels in 2023 due to some injuries there. But Revolta is really starting to put his name on the map here. And again, he could be a back-end bullpen kind of guy for this team. He has certainly showed that when he is good and when he is on and commanding the zone, this is a legit bullpen piece for the Nationals. Again, getting into it, 10 strikeouts in 7 1/3 innings pitch. If you look at his numbers from last year, he had nearly 13 strikeouts per 9 innings, compared to 5 walks per 9, had less than a home run per 9 innings as well. He has put up some really good numbers each of these past few seasons. And now you're starting to see him do it against major league talent. It's pretty cool to see because, again, I always talk about this. When you talk about the Rays, you talk about the Dodgers, they just, they do what with talent. Like, they just push out prospects like it's nothing. It's like a 14th round pick who may have a little bit of higher ceiling and probably should have been drafted earlier on. They give them a little bit more money to go to the Rays system. And then all of a sudden, they're in the majors 2 years later, and they're pumping 100 miles per hour, and they're really good. I feel as if the Nationals don't really get that as much. And now we kind of have it with Orlando Revolta. You have it with Jake Irvin, who's a 6th round pick. You have it with Brad Lord, who's pitching really well. These things are starting to happen to the Nationals, and we haven't really seen these sort of things in a while. It's been a long time talking about kind of having like these surprise breakout prospects who's not really on your radar, and also not even to mention Mitchell Parker, who had a really good year last year as a starting pitcher for your Washington Nationals. So Orlando Revolta, Robert Hassel III, and in my opinion also, you've got Brady House. Those 3 guys have been the most impressive Washington Nationals so far in spring training. Thank you all for making Locked On Nationals your first listen every single day, as we are free and available wherever you get your podcast. Next, let's talk about this. A national stock report. If you're an everydayer out there, you already know who's been up, who's been down, whose stock is hot, and whose stock is not. We'll discuss that after we tell you about our friends over at FanDuel. And of course, I can tell you this much, that March Madness is here, and FanDuel is giving you the chance to get in on the action like never before. And right now, new FanDuel customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's 200 extra bucks to use on everything from buzzer beaters to Cinderella stories, and even who's cutting down the net. And I've got my eye on a few underdogs this year, and FanDuel makes it easy to back them with spreads, totals, and game props like George Mason, the local team here in town. They won the A10 regular season. They're probably going to be that upset pick going into March Madness. I think George Mason can go on that thriller run that we have all been waiting for. So the FanDuel app is simple to use, and when I win, I get paid instantly with no waiting around. So visit FanDuel.com and get in on the college hoops action all tournament long with FanDuel.com. Thank you all for making Locked On Nationals your first listen every single day, as we are free and available wherever you get your podcast. So now let's get into a Nats stock report here. Whose stock has been up and whose stock has been down. Let's start off with a stock up for Brad Lord. Brad Lord, again, an 18th round pick in 2022. This Nationals team, you have not seen this before. You have not seen the Nationals go kind of, develop late round picks, for just being honest and ripping the Band-Aid off here. But Brad Lord has continued to look really good all spring training long after coming off a very good 2024 season in which he probably would have been the organization's best pitcher last year. He had 25 starts, a 2.43 ERA, and was just really good at 3 different levels, and even showed the part up in AAA Rochester. I thought he'd make his debut last year, but he did not. But even then, he is now backing it up with another strong performance. His fastball is up to 97. He's got 9 2/3 innings pitched. He's got 5 hits given up, only 1 earned run, only 1 walk as well, which I think is really key here. He's not really a strikeout guy, but he's just looking really good. And I kind of last year, like, we monitor him, we talk about Brad Lord and the success that he has had, but it wasn't really something that I'm like, we should probably pump the brakes on this guy. I don't think it's that time anymore. I think he has now proven that he is a real prospect. He is someone that you should be excited about this team moving forward. And he is certainly going to be on all of our radars as we kind of head into this season here. Because, again, Brad Lord, real big-time prospect. Stock down, Nathaniel Lowe, one of the Nationals' big free agent trade acquisitions from this offseason. Excuse me there, but it's just been a slow start for him. Nothing else. No one should be down on Nathaniel Lowe. No one should be concerned at this point with him. He's batting 125, a 467 OPS, and 24 at-bats. Only one extra base hit, in which that is the one thing that I will not say I'm fully concerned about. But it's one of my kind of in the back of my head thoughts being like, is this going to be an issue? Because his power kind of has fallen apart these past few seasons. And now you're seeing it in a very small sample size, I will add. And it was a double that he had, and that was it. Hasn't really been getting on base as much. Early on in spring training, he was kind of drawing the walks there, but hasn't really been having that same plate discipline later on in spring training. But if you look at his numbers each of the past 2 seasons in spring training, not really that impressive. So I'm going to pump the brakes on that. It's a stock down for now, but keep an eye on that power and see if it comes back for Nathaniel Lowe, because the Nationals are certainly banking on his power coming. And I got a stock up for Nasim Nunez, the Rule 5 pick from last year. He's with the Nationals for all 162 of last year. And the one knock on Nasim Nunez, he is a terrific fielder, great arm, great instincts, like one of the best defensive players the Nationals have, if not the best. But he couldn't hit at all. This year in spring training, he is on fire. It's limited at bats, only 17 so far, but he is batting .412, getting on base at a 50% clip, a .471 slug as well, and a .971 OPS in total. He's got 5 stolen bases as well and 2 walks. I believe he's only got 1 strikeout on the season, which he does now just looking back at his numbers here. 5 stolen bases in 17 at-bats with 2 walks and only 1 strikeout. If you're giving me that kind of production, I will take that every single day. Every single day. This guy is a terrific defender. Like, we are talking like really like 70 grade defense. He is that good. But the plate discipline has not been there. The just overall offensive tools have not been there. I'm not saying it's going to be there moving forward. That's not the expectation with him. He was a Rule 5 pick for a reason. But he does have this ability. And again, it's kind of similar with like Jacob Young. Jacob Young is a better overall player than Nasim Nunez, in my opinion. I think he's a better offensive piece there. But if Nasim Nunez could just find a way to be an average major league hitter, this guy would find his way into the starting lineup some way, somehow. Maybe not on this team, but he would certainly be a great backup option for the Washington Nationals. So he gets a stock up as of recent here. Stock down for Juan Yepez. What do I say? I need my power hitters to hit for power. Juan Yepez, you're a power hitter. You have not really hit for power so far. A .238 slug on spring training so far. Only 1 extra base hit in 21 at-bats. The approach just has not been there. And you saw this a lot with Yepez, even with the Cardinals and with the Nats this past year. Like, the stuff is there. Like, you want to believe in it. You want to think like, hey, Juan Yepez could be a solid first baseman for this Nationals team. And at this time of year last year, I was hooting and hollering for him to be your Nationals opening day first baseman. I was wrong, but he just, at this point in spring training, it hasn't clicked for him. Again, I want to reiterate this. It is spring training. It's a few weeks. For 162 games, he's going to have up and down seasons, whatever it will be. But Juan Yepez, he's kind of fighting for a job, and he might be an odd man out that gets sent down to AAA, and it wouldn't be that upsetting, to be honest, at this point, because he has not really proven his worth up to this point so far. One of the younger guys, he's 24 years old, that would not mention in the first segment, because he's kind of already been established, is Luis Garcia Jr. He gets my last stock up, and he has probably been your Nationals' best player so far, yet again. He is primed for just another big year. He's batting .400 with a .500 OBP, a .667 slug, an .1167 OPS, 3 strikeouts, 3 walks. He's got a home run, and he's got a double in just 15 at-bats. His defense has been stellar so far at second base, and I don't know about you guys, but it is time to extend Luis Garcia Jr. The bat is real. The defensive improvements are real. And if you remember this, I was sounding the alarms like an insane person in 2023 when Mike Rizzo kind of called out Luis Garcia Jr. This guy has been a totally different player the day that Mike Rizzo called him out. Just has responded in the best way possible, comes in prepared, comes in early, has good results, and you have seen the improvements at the plate. You have definitely seen the improvements defensively, and Luis Garcia Jr. is someone that should be a main piece moving forward because he is leading by example, and this is a guy that you want in your clubhouse moving forward. So great story so far for Luis Garcia Jr. after having a very rough 2023, coming back this last year, looking really good, and now you'd see him reap the benefits of a just very good season in 2024. So thank you all for making Locked On Nats your first listen every single day, as we are free and available wherever you get your podcast. Let's preview tonight's game, or today's game, 1:10 Eastern time against the Miami Marlins. We'll discuss that after this. Thank you all for making Locked On Nationals your first listen every single day, as we are free and available wherever you get your podcast. Today, you've got the Miami Marlins and the Washington Nationals. And before we get into it, Sandy Alcantara is going to be making his start against the Washington Nationals. And it's kind of cool. This guy's basically fallen off the face of the earth these last few seasons with injuries. And the all-star pitcher, you all know him, that he could click at any given time. Going up against Mitchell Parker, who, again, is kind of in this role where you don't really necessarily know what's going to happen with him. He is in this position battle with DJ Hers for that fifth starter spot. You also have Shin Ogasawara, who's also in this position battle up to this point for the Nats. So there are some real camp battles here that are happening and that we should probably be discussing a little bit more. And I will say this. If it were up to me, DJ Hers the guy moving forward, but don't tell that to Davey Martinez and Mike Rizzo. They like Mitchell Parker, and they should. This guy is a good player, but let's move on to tomorrow because they are off on Tuesday, which is a nice little getaway day for the Washington Nationals. But then you have, again, on Wednesday, they are at home against the Houston Astros, which is a home game for both those teams. They share a facility at Cacti Park. And then on Thursday, that is when I'll be heading down to West Palm Beach and giving you the latest on the Washington Nationals. So you're going to want to stay tuned for that and stay tuned for some of the best content coming out at spring training for your Washington Nationals, which is right here on Locked On Nationals. You have to go to YouTube, hit that subscriber button. You never know who will be in video form for your Washington Nationals. Getting an interview from old Ryan Clary here on Locked On Nats. So I will catch you guys on the flip side. Go Nats.